Hello there, and welcome to my channel, where curiosity finds its quiet corner and the mysteries of the mind become gentle companions to your rest. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Whether you're settling in after a long day, your thoughts are buzzing like busy bees, or you simply love drifting off to the soft whispers of science, this video was made just for you. Tonight, we're embarking on a peaceful journey into one of the most fascinating landscapes ever discovered. Not a distant galaxy or hidden ocean trench, but something far more intimate and mysterious. We're going to explore the sleeping brain itself and the remarkable networks that come alive when consciousness fades away. But before we begin our gentle expedition, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight, and what time is it where you are? Are you tucked beneath warm blankets with the world quiet around you, or perhaps somewhere far away where dawn is just beginning to paint the sky? If you find these sleepy explorations soothing, I'd be deeply grateful if you gave this video a gentle like and perhaps tap that subscribe button. It helps other weary travelers find their way to this peaceful corner of the internet, and it means I can continue crafting these soft scientific journeys for you. Now, I do hope this isn't so captivating that it accidentally keeps you awake, though if it does, at least you'll drift off knowing a bit more about the extraordinary theatre that unfolds in your mind each night. So settle in, let your breathing slow, and let's take a wonderfully unhurried wander through the sleeping brain and the neural networks that dance through your dreams. Have you ever wondered what your brain is actually doing while you sleep? For most of human history, sleep seemed like a simple pause, a temporary shutdown where the mind rests and the body recovers. We'd close our eyes, drift into darkness, and emerge hours later refreshed but with little memory of the journey between. Sleep was the great mystery, an 8-hour blackout in the story of consciousness. But what if I told you that sleep isn't a shutdown at all? What if, instead of powering down like a computer left idle, your sleeping brain becomes a bustling metropolis of activity, with networks of neurons lighting up in patterns more complex than any city at rush hour? What if the brain you thought was resting is actually working harder than ever, just in ways we never imagined? This is the story of neural networks during sleep, and it's one of the most beautiful discoveries in modern neuroscience. Your sleeping brain isn't quiet, it's not passive. Instead, it's conducting one of the most intricate symphonies in all of biology, with billions of neurons firing in coordinated waves, creating patterns that ripple through your mind like gentle tides. To understand this nocturnal orchestra, we need to take a step back and talk about what neural networks actually are. Think of your brain not as a single unified machine, but as a collection of interconnected neighborhoods, each with its own personality and purpose. These neighborhoods, or networks, are groups of brain regions that work together, chatting back and forth through electrical signals and chemical messages. During the day, when you're awake and alert, different networks take turns in the spotlight. When you're focused on reading these words, your attention networks are hard at work. When you're daydreaming about tomorrow's plans, your default mode network kicks in. When you hear a sudden sound and turn your head, your sensory networks spring into action. It's like a well-choreographed dance, with different performers stepping forward as the music changes. But here's where it gets interesting. When you fall asleep, this dance doesn't stop. Instead, it transforms into something entirely different, something that researchers are only just beginning to understand. The networks that seem so separate during the day begin to communicate in new ways. Connections form between regions that rarely speak when you're awake. It's as if sleep gives your brain permission to have conversations it never has time for during waking life. Picture this. As you drift into the first stage of sleep, your brain begins to slow its rhythm. The rapid, chaotic firing of daytime thoughts gives way to something more organized, more rhythmic. It's like watching a busy street gradually empty as evening settles in, leaving behind a quieter but no less purposeful activity. One of the first networks to change its tune is what scientists call the thalamic network. The thalamus, sitting deep in the center of your brain like a relay station, begins to gate the information flowing between your senses and your conscious mind. It's like a gentle bouncer at the door of awareness, deciding what deserves your attention and what can wait until morning. This is why you might sleep through the soft hum of traffic but wake instantly to the sound of your name being called. As sleep deepens, something truly remarkable happens. Slow waves begin to ripple across your brain like gentle ocean swells. These aren't random electrical storms, but highly organized patterns that sweep from the front of your brain to the back in coordinated waves. Scientists call this slow wave sleep, and it's during this stage that some of the most important neural networking occurs. These slow waves aren't just pretty patterns on a brain scanner, they're doing real work. As each wave passes through different brain regions, it's helping to coordinate activity between areas that don't normally sync up. It's like a conductor's baton, keeping different sections of an orchestra in perfect time. The visual cortex starts chatting with the memory centers. The emotion networks begin conversations with areas responsible for learning. Networks that operate independently during the day suddenly find themselves part of a larger, more connected symphony. But perhaps the most fascinating network activity happens during REM sleep, that mysterious stage when dreams become most vivid and strange. REM stands for rapid eye movement, named for the quick, darting movements your eyes make beneath closed lids during this phase. But the real action is happening inside your head, where neural networks are firing in patterns that look remarkably similar to waking consciousness, yet serve entirely different purposes. During REM sleep, your brain becomes a master storyteller, weaving together memories, emotions, and random neural firing into the complex narratives we call dreams. The visual cortex lights up as if you're actually seeing, even though your eyes are closed. The emotional centers become hyperactive, which is why dreams can feel so intensely joyful or terrifying. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and self-awareness, dims its activity, which explains why dream logic seems perfectly reasonable until you wake up. What's remarkable is how these REM networks seem to be doing important cognitive work. They're not just creating random neural noise, they're actively processing the day's experiences, filing away important memories, and even solving problems in ways that your waking mind couldn't manage. There are countless stories of scientists and artists who found solutions to complex problems in their dreams, their sleeping networks making connections that eluded their conscious minds. The memory consolidation network is particularly active during sleep. This network includes the hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe that acts like a temporary storage facility for new memories. During sleep, the hippocampus replays the day's experiences, literally reactivating the same neural patterns that fired when those memories were first formed. It's like your brain is reviewing home movies, deciding which ones are worth keeping and which can be deleted to make room for tomorrow. But it's not just replay. The sleeping brain is actively editing these memories, strengthening some connections while weakening others. It's extracting the general principles from specific experiences, finding patterns across different memories, and integrating new information with old knowledge. Your sleeping brain is essentially rewriting your autobiography every night, updating your personal story with each day's new chapters. Then there's the default mode network, one of the most intriguing discoveries in neuroscience. This network becomes active when you're not focused on any particular task, when your mind is wandering or at rest. During the day, it's often associated with daydreaming, self-reflection, and thinking about the future. But during sleep, this network takes on new roles, becoming part of the brain's maintenance crew. The default mode network during sleep seems to be involved in what researchers call the brain's cleaning system. Just as your body has a lymphatic system to remove waste products, your brain has a similar network called the glymphatic system that becomes particularly active during sleep. This system uses the brain's blood vessels and the spaces between cells to flush out metabolic waste, including proteins that, if left to accumulate, might contribute to neurodegenerative diseases. It's a beautiful example of how neural networks during sleep aren't just about mental processes, they're intimately connected to physical brain health. Your sleeping brain is literally washing itself, with specific networks coordinating this nightly housekeeping routine. What makes all of this even more remarkable is how these networks communicate with each other during sleep. During waking hours, different brain networks tend to be somewhat segregated, each focusing on its own tasks. But sleep seems to break down these barriers, allowing for what scientists call increased network connectivity. Imagine your brain as a city with different neighborhoods that don't usually interact much during the busy workday. But at night, when the traffic dies down, people from different areas can visit each other, share stories, and form new connections. Sleep creates these neural highways between regions, allowing for the kind of creative cross-pollination that leads to insights, creativity, and deeper understanding. This increased connectivity might explain why sleep is so crucial for learning and creativity. When you're trying to master a new skill or understand a complex concept, your sleeping brain is building bridges between different knowledge networks, helping you see connections that weren't apparent during focused study. It's as if sleep gives your mind permission to think outside the usual boundaries, to make leaps of understanding that logical, step-by-step thinking might miss. The timing of these network changes is also fascinating. Your brain cycles through different sleep stages roughly every 90 minutes, and each stage brings its own pattern of network activity. Early in the night, you spend more time in deep, slow-wave sleep, when the memory consolidation networks are most active. Later in the night, REM episodes become longer and more frequent, giving the creative and emotional processing networks their time to shine. This natural rhythm suggests that your brain has evolved a sophisticated schedule for different types of neural networking. It's not random, it's not chaotic. Instead, it's a carefully orchestrated sequence that maximizes different aspects of mental processing. Early sleep focuses on strengthening and organizing memories, while late sleep emphasizes creative synthesis and emotional integration. Scientists have discovered that disrupting this natural rhythm, disrupting these network patterns, can have profound effects on mental function. People who don't get enough slow-wave sleep often struggle with memory formation, while those deprived of REM sleep may have difficulty with emotional regulation and creative problem-solving. Each type of sleep network activity serves a unique and essential purpose. What's perhaps most beautiful about these sleeping neural networks is how they reveal the brain's fundamental drive toward connection and integration. During waking life, we often think of consciousness as a spotlight, focusing attention on one thing at a time while filtering out everything else. But sleep shows us a different model of mental activity, one where the goal isn't focus but synthesis, not selection but integration. Your sleeping brain is constantly working to weave the disparate threads of your experience into a coherent whole. It's finding patterns across memories, connecting emotions to experiences, and building the neural architecture that will support tomorrow's thoughts and decisions. In a very real sense, sleep is when your brain becomes most fully itself, when all its networks can communicate freely without the constraints of conscious attention. And this brings us to one of the most enchanting discoveries in sleep research, something that sounds almost too poetic to be true but has been confirmed in laboratories around the world. Your sleeping brain creates what scientists call neural avalanches, cascading waves of activity that spread through networks like ripples on a still pond. These aren't chaotic electrical storms, but precisely organized patterns that flow through your mind with mathematical beauty. Picture dropping a pebble into perfectly calm water. The ripples spread outward in concentric circles, each wave carrying information about that initial disturbance to distant shores. Neural avalanches work in a similar way, but instead of water, they're waves of electrical activity spreading through networks of interconnected brain cells. A small group of neurons fires, triggering their neighbors, who trigger their neighbors, creating cascades of activity that can sweep across entire brain regions. What makes these avalanches so special is their scale-free nature. Some are tiny, affecting just a few dozen neurons before fading away. Others are massive, involving millions of cells across multiple brain networks. But they all follow the same mathematical rules, the same elegant patterns that govern everything from forest fires to stock market fluctuations. Your sleeping brain is unconsciously orchestrating one of nature's most beautiful mathematical symphonies. These avalanches aren't random noise, they're carrying information. Each cascade helps different brain networks synchronize their activity, ensuring that memories, emotions, and experiences can be properly integrated. It's like your brain is sending messages to itself, using these waves of activity to coordinate the night's essential work. During deep sleep, these avalanches often follow the rhythm of those slow waves we talked about earlier. But their patterns change throughout the night, becoming faster and more complex during REM sleep, when your dreaming brain needs different networks to communicate in new ways. Scientists believe these changing patterns might be how your sleeping brain adapts its networking strategy to match the different cognitive tasks each sleep stage requires. Now, let's wander into one of the most mysterious networks that emerges during sleep, something researchers have only recently begun to understand. It's called the salience network, and its job is to act like a night watchman, monitoring your sleeping brain for anything important enough to wake you up. Even in the deepest sleep, part of your mind remains alert, scanning for danger, listening for your baby's cry, or detecting the smoke alarm's warning beep. The salience network creates what you might think of as a selective filter, one that can distinguish between the meaningless sounds of a passing car and the meaningful sound of someone calling your name. This network has to be incredibly sophisticated, processing sensory information without fully waking you, making split-second decisions about what deserves conscious attention and what can be safely ignored. What's remarkable is how this network learns and adapts. Parents of newborns often report that they can sleep through thunderstorms, but wake instantly to their baby's softest whimper. The salience network has rewired itself, becoming exquisitely tuned to the sounds and signals that matter most. It's as if your sleeping brain creates a personalized alarm system, one that understands your life, your responsibilities, and your deepest concerns. This network also seems to play a role in what psychologists call sleep-dependent learning. When you're trying to master a new skill, whether it's playing piano or learning a language, your salience network during sleep helps identify which neural patterns are worth strengthening and which can be discarded. It's like having a wise editor working through the night, helping your brain decide which memories deserve permanent storage and which are just temporary notes. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of sleeping neural networks is how they seem to prepare your mind for the next day's challenges. Research has shown that the patterns of network activity during sleep can actually predict how well you'll perform on cognitive tasks the following day. Your sleeping brain isn't just processing yesterday's experiences, it's actively preparing for tomorrow's demands. Think of it as mental rehearsal on a grand scale. While you sleep, different networks run through scenarios, strengthen important connections, and optimize pathways that will be needed when you wake. Your brain is essentially doing homework while you rest, practicing skills, consolidating learning, and preparing neural circuits for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. This preparation isn't random or general, it's surprisingly specific. Studies have shown that if you learn a complex task during the day, the exact same neural networks will reactivate during sleep, replaying the patterns over and over like a musician practicing scales. But the sleeping brain doesn't just repeat, it improves. The neural pathways become more efficient, the connections stronger, the execution smoother. Athletes have long known about the power of mental rehearsal, visualizing perfect performances to improve their physical skills. But sleep research suggests that your brain does this automatically every night, mentally rehearsing not just motor skills but cognitive abilities, emotional responses, and social interactions. Your sleeping mind is like a dedicated coach, working tirelessly to help you become better at being you. The emotional processing networks that activate during sleep are particularly intriguing. During REM sleep, your brain's emotional centers become hyperactive, while the regions responsible for rational thought quiet down. This creates a unique neural environment where emotions can be processed without the constraints of logical analysis. Scientists believe this emotional network activity serves several crucial functions. First, it helps you process difficult or traumatic experiences in a safe environment. The emotional intensity of these memories can be gradually reduced through repeated activation during dreams, helping to take the sharp edges off painful experiences. It's like your brain's own therapy session, working through emotional challenges while you're safely unconscious. But this emotional processing isn't just about healing from negative experiences. Sleep networks also help strengthen positive emotional memories, integrating joyful experiences into your long-term emotional landscape. They help you extract the emotional lessons from daily experiences, building the emotional intelligence that will guide future decisions. The social cognition networks are another fascinating aspect of sleep neuroscience. Even while unconscious, your brain continues to process social information, working through complex interpersonal dynamics and relationships. Dreams often feature elaborate social scenarios, and researchers believe this reflects important network activity that helps you understand other people's perspectives, practice social skills, and navigate complex relationship dynamics. This social processing during sleep might explain why people often report having insights about relationships or social situations after a good night's rest. Your sleeping brain has been running social simulations, exploring different scenarios and outcomes, helping you understand the complex web of human interactions that surround your daily life. As we drift deeper into the night's journey through neural networks, we encounter something that sounds almost magical but is grounded in rigorous science. During certain phases of sleep, different brain networks begin to oscillate in harmony, creating what researchers call neural synchrony. It's like different sections of an orchestra suddenly finding the same rhythm, their individual melodies combining into something larger and more beautiful than any single part. This synchrony isn't accidental. It's essential for the kind of large-scale information processing that happens during sleep. When networks synchronize their activity, they can share information more efficiently, coordinate their functions more effectively, and work together on complex cognitive tasks that no single network could accomplish alone. The patterns of synchrony change throughout the night, reflecting the different cognitive priorities of each sleep stage. During deep sleep, synchrony tends to be slow and sweeping, perfect for the methodical work of memory consolidation. During REM sleep, synchrony becomes faster and more complex, supporting the creative and emotional processing that characterizes dream states. Scientists have discovered that people who show stronger neural synchrony during sleep often perform better on learning and memory tasks the next day. It's as if the degree of coordination between sleeping networks determines how effectively the brain can process and integrate new information. Your sleeping mind is literally getting its act together, creating the neural harmony needed for optimal cognitive function. This synchrony also appears to be crucial for what researchers call sleep-dependent insight. You've probably experienced this phenomenon yourself, going to bed, stuck on a problem only to wake up with a clear solution. During sleep, synchronized network activity allows different types of information to combine in novel ways, leading to those aha moments that seem to come from nowhere but are actually the result of sophisticated neural networking. The glymphatic system we mentioned earlier also depends on network coordination, but of a different sort. This brain-cleaning network becomes most active during deep sleep, when neural activity follows those slow, sweeping patterns. The synchronized waves of electrical activity actually help pump cerebrospinal fluid through brain tissue, carrying away the molecular debris that accumulates during waking hours. This cleaning network is so important that researchers now believe sleep disorders that disrupt these patterns may contribute to neurodegenerative diseases. When the glymphatic system can't function properly due to poor sleep, toxic proteins may accumulate in the brain over time. It's a sobering reminder that sleep isn't a luxury, it's a biological necessity for maintaining brain health throughout life. The discovery of these sleeping neural networks has revolutionized our understanding of consciousness itself. We used to think of consciousness as an on-off switch, present during waking and absent during sleep. But network research reveals a more nuanced picture, where different aspects of mental activity continue throughout the night, just organized in different ways. Your sleeping mind isn't unconscious in the way we once imagined. Instead, it's differently conscious, operating according to its own logic and priorities. The networks that create your sense of self, your memories, your emotions, and your understanding of the world don't disappear during sleep. They reconfigure themselves for different types of work. This has profound implications for how we think about the mind and identity. In a very real sense, you are your neural networks, the patterns of connection and activity that create your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And these networks are never truly at rest. They're constantly evolving, adapting, and preparing for whatever comes next. As we near the end of this gentle exploration, it's worth reflecting on what these sleeping neural networks tell us about the nature of the mind itself. Far from being a simple biological computer that shuts down for maintenance, your brain reveals itself as something far more sophisticated and beautiful. It's a dynamic, ever-changing network of networks, constantly weaving the threads of experience into the rich tapestry of consciousness. Every night, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, you're not just resting your body or giving your mind a break. You're allowing one of nature's most complex and elegant systems to perform its nightly symphony. Billions of neurons fire in coordinated waves. Networks synchronize and communicate. Memories consolidate and integrate. Emotions process and heal. And creativity flourishes in the darkness. Your sleeping brain is working, but it's also dreaming. It's processing, but it's also creating. It's maintaining, but it's also growing. In the quiet hours when consciousness fades, your neural networks are busy weaving tomorrow's thoughts from tonight's dreams. And so we arrive at one of the most enchanting discoveries about sleeping neural networks, something that brings together everything we've explored in a way that's both scientifically profound and deeply personal. It's the realization that your sleeping brain creates what researchers call memory palaces, not the deliberate mnemonic devices used by memory champions, but spontaneous architectural landscapes built from neural connections. During sleep, your brain doesn't just store memories randomly like files in a computer folder. Instead, it constructs elaborate spatial and temporal maps, weaving experiences together based on emotional significance, sensory details, and conceptual relationships. These aren't physical structures, of course, but patterns of network connectivity that organize your life's experiences into navigable mental territories. Imagine walking through a vast library, where books don't sit on shelves alphabetically, but cluster together based on the emotions they evoke, the people they remind you of, or the lessons they contain. Your sleeping brain builds something remarkably similar, creating associative neighborhoods where related memories can find each other and form new connections. This architectural metaphor isn't just poetic, it reflects real neural geography. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped memory center we visited before, contains specialized cells called place cells that normally help you navigate physical space. But during sleep, these same cells help navigate memory space, creating cognitive maps that organize your experiences according to their meaning rather than their chronology. The beauty of this system becomes apparent when you consider how memories actually work in daily life. You rarely recall experiences in the order they happened. Instead, one memory triggers another through webs of association. The smell of coffee might transport you to a childhood morning, which reminds you of your grandmother's voice, which brings back the story she used to tell about her own childhood. These aren't random connections. They're pathways carefully constructed by sleeping neural networks. Research has shown that people who get adequate sleep show richer, more interconnected memory networks. Their recollections aren't isolated snapshots, but part of an integrated narrative that gives meaning and context to individual experiences. Sleep literally helps you make sense of your life by building the neural infrastructure that connects moments into stories. This memory architecture continues evolving throughout your lifetime, with sleeping networks constantly renovating and expanding the mental spaces where your experiences live. Childhood memories might be relocated to different neural neighborhoods as you gain adult perspective. Recent experiences get integrated into existing structures, sometimes requiring major renovations to accommodate new understanding. The process isn't always gentle. Sometimes sleeping networks must demolish old connections to make room for new ones. This might explain why certain memories fade, while others grow stronger with time. Your sleeping brain is an active curator, deciding which experiences deserve permanent exhibition and which can be moved to storage or quietly discarded. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of these sleeping memory palaces is how they prepare you for experiences you haven't had yet. By reorganizing existing memories into new configurations, sleeping networks create templates for understanding future situations. They're essentially running simulations, using past experiences to model potential futures. This forward-looking aspect of sleep becomes particularly evident in the network patterns that emerge during the early morning hours, when REM sleep episodes grow longer and more complex. During these extended dream periods, your brain seems to be conducting dress rehearsals for the day ahead, activating networks that will be needed for anticipated challenges and opportunities. Athletes often report dreaming about perfect performances before important competitions. Students dream about exam scenarios before tests. Parents dream about their children's needs before they're even expressed. These aren't just random neural firing. They're sophisticated simulations run by sleeping networks that have learned to anticipate and prepare. The emotional calibration that occurs during these preparation periods is particularly subtle and important. Your sleeping brain adjusts the sensitivity of various emotional networks based on recent experiences and upcoming challenges. If you've been stressed, sleep networks might strengthen resilience pathways. If you've been isolated, they might enhance social connection circuits. This emotional fine-tuning happens through what neuroscientists call synaptic homeostasis, a process where sleeping networks adjust the strength of connections between neurons. It's like a sound engineer adjusting the levels on a mixing board, making some signals stronger and others softer to create the optimal emotional balance for waking life. The timing of this adjustment process is exquisitely calibrated. Early in the night, when slow-wave sleep dominates, the focus is on strengthening important connections and weakening unnecessary ones. Later, during REM-rich periods, the emphasis shifts to creative recombination and emotional integration. Your sleeping brain follows an ancient schedule that maximizes both consolidation and preparation. What makes this even more fascinating is how these sleeping networks adapt to your individual life circumstances. A musician's sleeping brain develops different connectivity patterns than an accountant's. A parent's neural networks reorganize differently than a single person's, the man's. Your sleeping mind literally reshapes itself to match the cognitive and emotional demands of your particular existence. This personalization extends to the rhythm and timing of network activity. Some people naturally experience more intense early night consolidation, making them better at strengthening detailed memories. Others show stronger late night integration patterns, excelling at creative synthesis and problem solving. Your sleeping brain develops its own unique signature, a neural fingerprint as individual as your waking personality. The social dimensions of sleeping neural networks reveal another layer of complexity that researchers are only beginning to understand. During sleep, networks that process social information remain remarkably active, continuing to work through relationship dynamics and social understanding even in unconscious states. This social processing isn't limited to people you know personally. Sleeping networks also work on understanding social categories, cultural norms, and the complex web of expectations that govern human interaction. They're essentially running social simulations, practicing responses to interpersonal challenges, and refining your understanding of how people think and feel. Dreams often feature elaborate social scenarios that feel emotionally significant, even when they don't make logical sense. You might dream about having an important conversation with someone you barely know, or find yourself navigating complex group dynamics in impossible settings. These dreams reflect the serious work being done by social processing networks during sleep. The implications are profound. Your sleeping brain is constantly updating your social intelligence, integrating new information about human behavior with existing knowledge to improve your ability to navigate relationships. People who get adequate sleep often show better social judgment and empathy, not because they're more rested, but because their social processing networks have had time to do their important work. This social networking during sleep might also explain why isolation and loneliness can be so disruptive to sleep quality. When social processing networks don't have enough real-world material to work with, they may become dysregulated, leading to the kind of rumination and anxiety that interferes with rest. The creative networks that activate during sleep deserve special attention, as they reveal some of the most remarkable capabilities of the sleeping mind. During REM sleep, the usual constraints of logical thinking are relaxed, allowing different types of information to combine in novel ways. This isn't chaotic randomness. It's systematic exploration of creative possibilities. Your sleeping brain becomes a master improviser, taking elements from different experiences and recombining them into new patterns. This process often leads to genuine insights and creative breakthroughs, as distant concepts find unexpected connections through the unique networking environment of sleep. The famous stories of scientific discoveries made in dreams, from Kekulé's benzene ring to Mendeleev's periodic table, aren't just lucky accidents. They reflect the real creative power of sleeping neural networks, which can make conceptual leaps that focused thinking might miss. Your sleeping mind isn't bound by the linear logic that characterizes waking thought, allowing it to explore solution spaces that conscious reasoning might never visit. This creative networking isn't limited to obvious creative pursuits. Any complex problem that requires integrating information from different domains can benefit from sleep-dependent processing. Business leaders often report waking up with solutions to strategic challenges. Teachers discover new ways to explain difficult concepts. Even routine decisions can benefit from the creative synthesis that occurs during sleep. The pattern recognition capabilities of sleeping networks are particularly impressive. While you sleep, different brain regions share information in ways that can reveal hidden patterns in complex data. Your sleeping mind might notice correlations between seemingly unrelated events, or recognize subtle trends that escaped conscious attention. This pattern recognition extends to your own behavior and emotional patterns. Sleeping networks seem to conduct a kind of nightly self-analysis, identifying recurring themes in your thoughts and actions. This might contribute to the self-knowledge and emotional insight that often emerge after periods of adequate rest. The learning consolidation that occurs during sleep involves far more than simple memory storage. Sleeping networks actively extract general principles from specific experiences, a process that transforms isolated facts into integrated understanding. When you learn something new during the day, sleeping networks work to connect that information with existing knowledge, creating the conceptual frameworks that support expertise. This integration process can continue for days or even weeks after initial learning. Each night's sleep adds another layer of processing, gradually weaving new information into the fabric of existing knowledge. This is why complex skills often seem to improve overnight, and why difficult concepts sometimes become clear after sleeping on them. The motor learning networks that activate during sleep are particularly well understood. When you practice a physical skill, the specific patterns of muscle activation get encoded not just in motor areas but in networks throughout the brain. During sleep, these networks replay the movement patterns, gradually optimizing the neural pathways that control skilled action. This motor rehearsal during sleep is so specific that researchers can actually predict which hand movements a sleeping person practiced earlier by monitoring their brain activity. The sleeping brain doesn't just store motor memories, it actively refines them, making movements more efficient and coordinated through offline practice. But motor learning during sleep isn't limited to physical movements. The same networks that optimize hand coordination also work on cognitive skills that require precise mental control. Learning to regulate attention, manage emotions, or execute complex reasoning all benefit from the motor-like rehearsal that occurs during sleep. The sensory processing networks present during sleep create one of the most intriguing paradoxes in neuroscience. While your senses are largely disconnected from the outside world during sleep, sensory networks remain highly active, processing internally generated signals that create the rich perceptual experiences of dreams. Your sleeping brain can create visual experiences more vivid than waking sight, auditory experiences more complex than any real soundscape, and tactile sensations more intense than actual touch. These internally generated sensory experiences aren't just random noise. They're sophisticated simulations that serve important cognitive functions. Visual processing networks during sleep seem particularly important for spatial cognition and memory. The complex visual scenes that populate dreams often reflect the brain's work in organizing spatial memories and practicing visual recognition skills. Even people who are blind from birth experience rich visual imagery in dreams, suggesting that these networks serve functions that go beyond simple sensory processing. The auditory processing that occurs during sleep is equally fascinating. Sleeping brains often incorporate external sounds into dream narratives, but they also generate complex internal soundscapes. These might include conversations with dream characters, imaginary music, or ambient sounds that create emotional atmosphere. This internal audio processing seems to play a role in language development and social learning. Children's sleeping brains show particularly intense auditory activity, possibly reflecting the enormous amount of language processing required for normal development. Adults learning new languages also show enhanced auditory processing during sleep, suggesting that linguistic networks remain active throughout life. The multisensory integration that characterizes waking perception also continues during sleep, but in modified forms. Dream experiences often combine senses in impossible ways, creating synesthetic experiences where sounds have colors or emotions have textures. These unusual sensory combinations might reflect the brain's exploration of different ways to organize and integrate perceptual information. As our journey through sleeping neural networks draws toward a gentle close, we encounter perhaps the most profound mystery of all. How do these billions of individual neurons, each following simple biological rules, create the unified experience of a dreaming mind? How does the complex choreography of network interactions give rise to the sense of being someone, somewhere, experiencing something? This is the hard problem of consciousness, and sleep adds fascinating complexity to this ancient puzzle. During dreams, you experience a rich sense of self and world, despite being disconnected from external reality. Your sleeping brain creates not just perceptions and emotions, but a coherent sense of identity that persists across the shifting landscapes of dream experience. The networks that maintain this sense of self during sleep are only beginning to be understood. They seem to involve the same regions that create waking self-awareness, but operating under very different constraints. The result is a dream self that feels completely real in the moment, but may have different memories, abilities, or even physical characteristics than your waking identity. This fluidity of dream identity might serve important psychological functions. By allowing you to experience different versions of yourself, sleeping networks might be exploring potential identities, testing different ways of being in the world, or processing aspects of personality that don't find expression in waking life. The narrative construction that occurs during dreams reveals another remarkable capability of sleeping networks. Despite the bizarre and illogical content of many dreams, they usually feel like coherent stories while you're experiencing them. Your sleeping brain is constantly weaving random neural activity into meaningful narratives, creating the sense that even impossible events make perfect sense. This narrative construction might be one of the most important functions of sleeping networks. By practicing the creation of coherent stories from disparate elements, your sleeping brain maintains and develops the narrative abilities that help you make sense of waking experience. Life, after all, is largely about creating meaningful stories from the chaos of daily events. The integration of all these network functions during sleep creates something that transcends any individual component. Your sleeping brain isn't just processing memories, or consolidating learning, or solving problems, or maintaining identity. It's doing all of these things simultaneously in an integrated symphony of neural activity that serves the whole person. This holistic integration might be sleep's most important gift. In a world that often fragments experience into separate categories, work, relationships, learning, creativity, emotions, sleeping networks remind us that the mind is fundamentally unified. The artificial boundaries we create during waking life dissolve in sleep, allowing different aspects of experience to inform and enrich each other. And so we find ourselves at a place of quiet wonder, having travelled through the remarkable landscape of the sleeping brain and its neural networks. What began as a simple question about what happens when we close our eyes has revealed a universe of activity more complex and beautiful than anyone imagined. Your sleeping brain isn't resting, it's working. But it's not working in the focused, goal-directed way of waking consciousness. Instead, it's playing, exploring, creating, and integrating in ways that serve not just tomorrow's tasks, but your lifelong growth as a thinking, feeling, dreaming human being. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember that you're not just ending your day, you're beginning a different kind of consciousness. You're allowing your neural networks to dance their ancient dance, to weave new connections and strengthen old ones, to process emotions and consolidate memories, to solve problems and explore possibilities. In the gentle darkness that awaits, your brain will become a symphony of synchronized networks, each playing its part in the grand composition of a night's rest. Billions of neurons will fire in coordinated waves, creating patterns more complex than any human art, more beautiful than any earthly music. And when morning comes, when consciousness returns, and your eyes open to greet a new day, you'll carry with you the gifts of the night's neural networking. Memories will be clearer, emotions more balanced, problems closer to solution, and creativity ready to bloom. You'll wake, not just rested, but renewed, your mind refreshed by the remarkable journey through sleeping neural networks. The networks we've explored so far represent just the surface of what happens when your mind surrenders to sleep. As we settle deeper into our gentle exploration, we encounter something that might sound like science fiction but is grounded in the most rigorous neuroscience. Your sleeping brain doesn't just process information, it actually restructures itself, physically rewiring connections in ways that would be impossible during waking hours. This phenomenon, called sleep-dependent plasticity, reveals that your brain is literally a different organ when you wake up than it was when you fell asleep. The networks we've been wandering through don't just communicate differently during sleep. They actually rebuild themselves, strengthening some pathways while pruning others, like a master gardener tending to an infinite neural garden. Picture this. As you drift into deeper stages of sleep, your brain begins what neuroscientists call synaptic scaling. The connections between neurons, those tiny gaps where chemical messages leap from one cell to another, start adjusting their sensitivity. Connections that were heavily used during the day become more efficient, while those that served little purpose begin to weaken. It's as if your sleeping brain is editing its own wiring diagram, keeping the circuits that serve you well, and quietly removing those that don't. This editing process isn't random or destructive. Instead, it follows elegant rules that maximize learning while preserving important memories. Strong, meaningful connections become stronger, while weak, irrelevant ones fade away. The result is a more efficient brain, one that can respond more quickly to important information and ignore distractions more effectively. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this neural remodeling is how it creates space for new learning. During waking hours, your brain accumulates so many new connections that it begins to reach capacity. Sleep provides a crucial reset, pruning unnecessary connections to make room for tomorrow's experiences. It's like clearing out old files to make space on a hard drive, except far more sophisticated and beautiful. The timing of this remodeling follows the same rhythmic patterns we've seen throughout our journey. During slow-wave sleep, the pruning process is methodical and thorough, focusing on the detailed editing of individual connections. During REM sleep, the remodeling becomes more creative and wide-ranging, sometimes creating entirely new pathways between distant brain regions. This physical restructuring might explain why sleep is so crucial during periods of intense learning. Children and adolescents, whose brains are undergoing rapid development, spend much more time in deep sleep than adults. Their neural networks are constantly rewiring themselves, accommodating the flood of new information and skills that characterize growing minds. Adults, too, show increased sleep-dependent plasticity when learning new skills or adapting to new environments. People studying foreign languages often experience particularly intense dreams and may find their sleep patterns changing as their brains accommodate new linguistic networks. Musicians learning complex pieces may dream about their practice sessions as motor networks undergo intensive remodeling. The social learning networks we touched on earlier undergo their own specialized remodeling during sleep. The connections that help you understand other people's emotions, predict their behavior, and navigate complex social situations are constantly being refined through sleep-dependent plasticity. This might explain why sleep deprivation often leads to poor social judgment and difficulty reading emotional cues. Your sleeping brain is essentially practicing empathy, running social simulations that strengthen the neural pathways needed for successful interpersonal interaction. The person who snaps at you after a sleepless night isn't just tired. Their social processing networks haven't had the opportunity to recalibrate through normal sleep-dependent remodeling. As we venture deeper into the night's neural landscape, we encounter something that reveals the truly collaborative nature of sleeping networks. Different brain regions don't just communicate during sleep, they actually synchronize their remodeling processes, ensuring that changes in one area complement modifications in another. This synchronized plasticity creates what researchers call coherent network evolution. When your visual processing areas strengthen certain connections, your memory networks simultaneously adjust their own wiring to better integrate visual information. When emotional processing centers undergo remodeling, reasoning networks adapt to work more effectively with the modified emotional signals. It's like watching a vast construction project where different teams coordinate their work to create a unified structure. Your sleeping brain is simultaneously renovating multiple networks while ensuring that all the changes work together harmoniously. The result is not just individual network improvement, but enhanced coordination between different aspects of mental function. This coordination extends beyond individual brain regions to encompass entire cognitive systems. The networks responsible for attention work with those governing memory, which collaborate with systems handling emotion and motivation. During sleep, these different cognitive domains align their development, creating a more integrated and effective mind. The long-term implications of this coordinated remodeling are profound. Over months and years, sleep-dependent plasticity gradually shapes your brain's architecture to match your life experiences and challenges. A pianist's brain develops enhanced connectivity between motor and auditory regions. A teacher's networks become optimized for communication and patience. A parent's neural architecture adapts to the constant vigilance and nurturing that child rearing requires. But this adaptation isn't just professional or functional. Sleep-dependent plasticity also shapes the networks that create your personality, your emotional responses, and your way of seeing the world. The person you become is literally sculpted by thousands of nights of neural modeling, each sleep session adding another layer of refinement to the complex architecture of your mind. The emotional remodeling that occurs during sleep deserves special attention, as it reveals how your sleeping brain helps you grow not just intellectually but emotionally. The networks that process fear, joy, anger, and love undergo constant refinement during sleep, adjusting their sensitivity based on recent experiences and future needs. If you've experienced trauma or intense stress, sleeping networks work to recalibrate emotional responses, sometimes strengthening resilience pathways while dampening overactive fear circuits. If you've experienced joy or success, sleep helps integrate these positive experiences into your emotional landscape, making optimism and confidence more accessible in future situations. This emotional calibration is particularly evident in the way sleep affects mood regulation. People who consistently get adequate sleep show more stable emotional responses and better ability to bounce back from setbacks. Their emotional networks have had the opportunity to maintain optimal sensitivity through regular sleep-dependent remodeling. The process isn't always smooth or comfortable. Sometimes emotional remodeling during sleep can intensify dreams or create temporary emotional instability as networks adjust to new configurations. But this temporary disruption serves a larger purpose, allowing emotional systems to evolve and adapt to changing life circumstances. As we explore further, we discover that sleeping neural networks don't just remodel existing connections, they also create entirely new pathways that didn't exist during waking hours. These novel connections often link distant brain regions that rarely communicate when you're awake, creating what neuroscientists call long-range connectivity. These new pathways might explain the sudden insights and creative breakthroughs that often follow a good night's sleep. By creating connections between previously unconnected networks, sleep opens up new possibilities for thought and understanding. A problem that seemed impossible the night before might have a clear solution in the morning because sleeping networks have built new bridges between relevant information. The creation of these novel pathways follows its own fascinating rhythm. Early in the night, new connections tend to be local, linking nearby brain regions in more efficient ways. Later in the night, particularly during extended REM periods, long-range connections begin forming, creating the kind of distant associations that characterize creative thinking. This temporal pattern might explain why many people report their most creative dreams occurring in the early morning hours. Their sleeping networks have spent the night building increasingly distant connections, culminating in the kind of far-reaching associations that can produce genuinely novel ideas. The maintenance of existing networks during sleep is equally important and complex. Just as your body uses sleep time for physical repair and maintenance, your brain uses sleep to maintain its neural infrastructure. This includes everything from cleaning cellular debris, to replenishing neurotransmitter supplies, to repairing damaged connections. The glymphatic system we mentioned earlier plays a crucial role in this maintenance, but it's just one part of a comprehensive repair network that activates during sleep. Different brain regions take turns undergoing intensive maintenance, ensuring that no area accumulates too much wear and tear from daily use. This maintenance rhythm is so important that disrupting it can have serious consequences for brain health. People who consistently get poor sleep show signs of accelerated neural aging, including reduced network efficiency and increased vulnerability to neurodegenerative diseases. Your sleeping brain isn't just resting, it's actively fighting against the entropy that would otherwise degrade neural function over time. The metabolic networks that support all this neural activity during sleep represent another marvel of biological engineering. Your sleeping brain actually consumes almost as much energy as your waking brain, but it uses that energy very differently. Instead of supporting focused attention and conscious thought, sleeping metabolism fuels the intensive remodeling and maintenance work that keeps your neural networks healthy and efficient. Different sleep stages require different metabolic strategy. Slow-wave sleep is particularly energy-intensive, supporting the protein synthesis needed for synaptic remodeling and the cellular repair processes that maintain neural health. REM sleep uses energy more like waking consciousness, but directs it toward creative synthesis and emotional processing rather than external awareness. The coordination between metabolic networks and neural activity during sleep is so precise that researchers can actually predict sleep stages by monitoring brain energy consumption. Your sleeping brain follows an ancient metabolic dance, allocating resources with the precision of a master economist to ensure that all networks get what they need when they need it. This metabolic precision extends to the molecular level, where sleeping networks coordinate the production and distribution of thousands of different chemical signals. Neurotransmitters that were depleted during waking hours get replenished according to carefully regulated schedules. Growth factors that support synaptic plasticity are released in precise patterns. Even the cellular machinery that maintains neural connections follows sleep-dependent rhythms. The result is a brain that wakes up not just rested, but literally renewed at the molecular level. Every neurotransmitter system has been rebalanced. Every cellular repair mechanism has done its work, and every network has been tuned for optimal performance. You wake up with a brain that is, in very real biological terms, younger and more efficient than when you fell asleep. As our exploration of sleeping neural networks draws toward its gentle conclusion, we encounter perhaps the most beautiful discovery of all. The networks we've been exploring don't operate in isolation from each other or from the networks of other sleeping minds. Research is beginning to reveal that sleeping brains may actually influence each other in subtle but measurable ways. People who sleep near each other, whether family members or partners, often show synchronized sleep patterns. Their neural networks seem to entrain to each other's rhythms, creating a kind of shared sleep architecture that supports mutual rest and recovery. This synchronization isn't just behavioral, it appears to involve actual coordination between different sleeping brains. The mechanisms behind this coordination are still being investigated, but they seem to involve subtle environmental cues like breathing patterns, body temperature, fluctuations, and even electromagnetic fields generated by neural activity. Sleeping brains may be more sensitive to these signals than waking minds, allowing for a form of unconscious communication that supports collective rest. This social dimension of sleep adds yet another layer to our understanding of neural networks. Your sleeping brain isn't just an isolated system working on individual problems, it's part of a larger web of sleeping minds, each supporting the others through shared rhythms and synchronized recovery cycles. Parents and children often show particularly strong sleep synchronization, with the parents' networks remaining partially alert to the child's sleep signals even during deep rest. This creates a kind of protective umbrella where one sleeping brain monitors another, ensuring safety while still allowing for restorative rest. The evolutionary implications of synchronized sleep are fascinating. Our ancestors likely slept in groups for safety, with different individuals taking turns in lighter sleep stages to watch for danger. Modern sleeping brains may retain these ancient coordination mechanisms, creating unconscious networks of mutual protection and support. This social aspect of sleep might also explain why isolation and loneliness can be so disruptive to rest. When sleeping networks can't synchronize with others, they may become dysregulated, leading to the kind of restless, unsatisfying sleep that often accompanies social isolation. Your sleeping brain, it seems, is designed to be part of a community, even in unconsciousness. The implications extend beyond immediate sleep quality to long-term health and well-being. People who regularly sleep near loved ones often show better sleep-dependent learning, more stable emotional regulation, and enhanced resilience to stress. Their neural networks benefit not just from individual rest, but from participation in a larger sleeping community. As we prepare to emerge from our journey through the sleeping brain's neural networks, it's worth reflecting on what this remarkable system tells us about the nature of consciousness and identity. The networks we've explored reveal that your mind is not a single, unified entity, but a dynamic community of interconnected systems, each contributing its own capabilities to the larger symphony of consciousness. During sleep, this community operates according to different rules than during waking hours. The usual hierarchies dissolve, allowing networks that rarely communicate to share information and influence each other. The result is a kind of democratic consciousness, where different aspects of mental function can contribute to collective solutions. This democratic aspect of sleeping consciousness might explain why sleep often provides perspectives that elude focused thinking. When the executive networks that normally control conscious attention step back, other networks can contribute insights and solutions that might otherwise be suppressed or overlooked. The person who wakes up with a solution to a difficult problem hasn't just gotten lucky. Their sleeping networks have conducted a collaborative exploration of the problem space, with each network contributing its own perspective and capabilities. The solution emerges not from any single network, but from their collective intelligence. This collaborative model of sleeping consciousness has profound implications for how we think about creativity, learning, and personal growth. Rather than seeing these as individual achievements, we might understand them as emergent properties of networked intelligence, capabilities that arise from the interaction of multiple systems working together. Your sleeping brain reveals that intelligence itself is not located in any particular place, but emerges from the dynamic interactions between different networks. Consciousness is not a thing but a process, not a location but a pattern of relationships between different aspects of neural function. And so we find ourselves at the end of our gentle journey through the remarkable landscape of sleeping neural networks, though in many ways we've only scratched the surface of this vast and mysterious territory. What began as a simple question about what happens when we sleep has revealed a universe of activity more complex and beautiful than our ancestors could have imagined. Your sleeping brain is not passive or dormant, but alive with purpose and intention. Every night, as consciousness fades and dreams begin, billions of neurons dance their ancient choreography, weaving the threads of experience into the rich tapestry of memory, learning, and growth. The networks we've explored tonight, from the methodical memory consolidators of slow-wave sleep to the creative synthesizers of REM, from the emotional processors that help you grow to the maintenance crews that keep everything running smoothly, all work together in service of something larger than any individual function. They serve the continuation of consciousness itself, the maintenance and development of the remarkable phenomenon that is your aware, experiencing, growing mind. They ensure that when you wake tomorrow morning, you'll be not just rested but renewed, not just recovered but enriched by the night's neural journey. Tonight, as you prepare to join this ancient dance, remember that you're not just ending your day, but beginning a different kind of adventure. In the gentle darkness that awaits, your neural networks will synchronize and communicate, remodel and repair, create and consolidate in ways that serve not just tomorrow's tasks, but your lifelong journey of growth and discovery. The sleeping brain you carry into the night is one of nature's most sophisticated creations, a biological masterpiece capable of feats that put our most advanced computers to shame. It can create vivid worlds from neural activity alone, solve problems that stump waking consciousness, and weave the disparate threads of experience into coherent meaning. But perhaps most remarkably, it does all this while you rest, requiring nothing from your conscious mind but the simple act of letting go. In sleep, you become a passenger on a journey, orchestrated by networks far wiser than any individual thought, far more creative than any focused effort, far more healing than any conscious intention. As your eyes grow heavy and your thoughts begin to drift, remember that you're about to embark on one of the most important journeys of your day. Your sleeping networks are preparing for their nightly symphony, ready to weave tomorrow's possibilities from tonight's dreams. Rest well, knowing that in the darkness, your mind will dance with ancient rhythms, your networks will sing their silent songs, and your sleeping brain will do what it has done for countless generations, transforming the raw material of experience into the gold of wisdom, understanding, and growth. The neural networks of sleep await, patient and ready to carry you through the night's gentle journey toward a new day's awakening. And yet, for all the remarkable discoveries we've made about sleeping neural networks, perhaps the most profound revelation is how much mystery still remains. We've mapped the major highways of the sleeping mind, charted the rhythms of different sleep stages, and begun to understand the intricate choreography of neural communication. But the deeper we venture into this landscape, the more we realize how much we don't yet know. Consider, for instance, the curious phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where consciousness somehow awakens within the dream state itself. During these remarkable experiences, certain networks that normally remain dormant during REM sleep suddenly flicker back to life, creating a hybrid state of awareness that shouldn't be possible according to our current understanding. Yet there you are, aware that you're dreaming while the dream continues around you, your neural networks operating in configurations that seem to defy the usual rules. The networks responsible for self-awareness and critical thinking, which typically remain quiet during dreams, somehow manage to reactivate without fully waking you up. It's as if your sleeping brain has found a way to have its cake and eat it too, maintaining the creative freedom of the dream state while recovering just enough conscious control to recognize the experience for what it is. Lucid dreamers often report being able to influence their dream narratives, to fly through imaginary landscapes, or have conversations with dream characters while knowing none of it is real. This suggests that even in sleep, neural networks retain far more flexibility and conscious potential than we might expect. Your sleeping mind isn't just a passive recipient of whatever experiences emerge from unconscious processing. It's capable of a kind of metacognitive awareness that bridges the gap between sleeping and waking consciousness. The implications are fascinating and humbling. If neural networks can achieve this kind of hybrid awareness during sleep, what other configurations might be possible? Are there states of consciousness we haven't even discovered yet? Patterns of network activity that could expand our understanding of what the mind can do? Some researchers are exploring whether lucid dreaming might offer a window into the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. By studying the neural patterns that allow awareness to persist within dreams, we might learn something profound about how consciousness emerges from the complex interactions of different brain networks. Your sleeping brain, in its most unusual moments, might hold keys to questions that philosophers and scientists have pondered for centuries. But lucid dreaming is just one of the mysteries that sleeping neural networks present. There's also the puzzling phenomenon of sleep learning, where some types of information seem to be absorbed and retained even during unconscious states. While you can't exactly learn calculus while sleeping, research suggests that certain kinds of simple associations and even some language learning can occur during specific sleep stages. The networks responsible for this unconscious learning are still being mapped, but they seem to involve a delicate balance between maintaining sleep and remaining just alert enough to process meaningful information. It's as if your sleeping brain keeps one ear open, ready to learn from particularly important or relevant signals while filtering out everything else. This selective attention during sleep might explain why parents can sleep through thunderstorms but wake instantly to their child's cry, or why you might incorporate the sound of your alarm clock into a dream rather than waking immediately. Your sleeping networks are constantly making decisions about what deserves conscious attention and what can be safely ignored or integrated into the dream narrative. The emotional dimensions of these sleeping networks continue to reveal new layers of complexity as research advances. We now know that different emotions are processed by distinct network patterns during sleep, with some requiring the creative chaos of REM sleep, while others benefit from the methodical organization of deep sleep stages. Fear and anxiety, for instance, seem to require particularly intensive processing during REM sleep, where the emotional intensity of frightening experiences can be gradually reduced through repeated activation in a safe environment. Your sleeping brain essentially practices being afraid while you're protected from real danger, helping to calibrate your fear responses for future encounters. Joy and contentment, by contrast, often receive their most important processing during the quieter phases of sleep, where positive experiences can be carefully integrated into your long-term emotional landscape. These different processing strategies suggest that your sleeping brain has evolved sophisticated mechanisms for handling the full spectrum of human emotion. The social and cultural aspects of sleeping networks present another frontier that researchers are just beginning to explore. The way your brain processes social information during sleep seems to be influenced not just by your individual experiences, but by the broader cultural context in which you live. People from different cultures show distinct patterns of social network activity during sleep, suggesting that even our unconscious minds are shaped by the social norms and expectations of our communities. Your sleeping brain doesn't just process your personal relationships. It also works to understand and navigate the complex web of cultural rules that govern social interaction. This cultural processing during sleep might explain why people often report dreams that seem to reflect broader social anxieties or aspirations. Your sleeping networks aren't just working on your individual social challenges, they're also processing the collective concerns and hopes of your cultural community. The generational aspects of sleeping neural networks reveal yet another layer of complexity. Children, adults, and elderly people show distinctly different patterns of network activity during sleep, reflecting the changing cognitive and emotional needs of different life stages. Children's sleeping networks are particularly plastic and active, supporting the enormous amount of learning and development that characterizes young minds. Their neural networks undergo more intensive remodeling during sleep, creating the flexibility needed for rapid skill acquisition and adaptation. Adult sleeping networks tend to focus more on consolidation and integration, refining existing skills and knowledge, rather than building entirely new capabilities. The patterns become more efficient, but perhaps less dramatically transformative than in childhood. Elderly sleeping networks face the challenge of maintaining cognitive function while dealing with age-related changes in brain structure and chemistry. Yet even in advanced age, sleeping networks continue to adapt and compensate, finding new ways to support memory, learning, and emotional regulation. These generational differences suggest that your sleeping brain continues to evolve throughout your lifetime, adapting its strategies and priorities to match your changing needs and capabilities. The networks that serve you as a child are different from those that support you as an adult, which are different again from those that sustain you in later life. The seasonal and circadian aspects of sleeping neural networks add another dimension to this complex picture. Your sleeping brain doesn't just follow the 90-minute cycles of sleep stages, it also responds to longer rhythms tied to seasonal changes and your body's internal biological clock. During longer winter nights, sleeping networks often show different patterns of activity than during shorter summer nights. Some people experience more intensive memory consolidation during winter sleep, while others show enhanced creative processing during the extended darkness. Your neural networks also seem to track longer-term patterns, adjusting their activity based on weekly and monthly rhythms that we're only beginning to understand. The way your brain processes information on Monday night might be subtly different from how it handles the same information on Friday night, reflecting accumulated stress, changing social demands, and cyclical biological processes. These longer rhythms suggest that sleeping neural networks operate on multiple timescales simultaneously, from the rapid oscillations of individual brainwaves to the slow cycles of seasonal change. Your sleeping brain is constantly adjusting its strategies based on where you are, not just in the nightly sleep cycle, but in the larger rhythms of biological and social time. The technological implications of our growing understanding of sleeping neural networks are beginning to capture the imagination of researchers and inventors. If we can decode the patterns of activity that support optimal sleep-dependent learning, might we be able to enhance those patterns artificially? Early research into techniques like targeted memory reactivation suggests that it might be possible to strengthen specific memories during sleep by providing subtle cues that reactivate the relevant neural networks. Playing soft sounds or scents associated with recently learned information during sleep can sometimes enhance retention and understanding, but these interventions must be incredibly gentle and precisely timed to avoid disrupting the natural processes they're meant to enhance. Your sleeping networks have evolved over millions of years to operate according to their own ancient wisdom, and any attempt to modify their function must respect the delicate balance they maintain. The ethical implications of sleep enhancement technologies are equally complex. If we can improve learning or memory consolidation during sleep, should we? Who would have access to such technologies? How might they change the nature of human experience and achievement? These questions become even more intriguing when we consider the possibility of dream sharing or communication during sleep. While still in the realm of science fiction, some researchers are exploring whether the synchronized brain activity we see in sleeping couples might someday be enhanced to allow for more direct communication between sleeping minds. The idea of shared dreams or sleep-based communication raises profound questions about privacy, consciousness, and the boundaries of individual identity. If sleeping networks can influence each other, what might be possible with more sophisticated technological mediation? But perhaps the most important implication of sleeping network research is not technological, but personal. Understanding what happens in your sleeping brain can help you appreciate the remarkable gift of rest and the importance of protecting your sleep from the demands of our always-on world. Every night, as you close your eyes and surrender to sleep, you're allowing one of nature's most sophisticated systems to perform its ancient work. Your sleeping networks don't need your conscious participation or control, they need your trust and your commitment to providing the time and conditions they require. This means recognizing sleep not as time stolen from productivity, but as an investment in your cognitive, emotional, and creative capabilities. It means understanding that the hours you spend unconscious are among the most important of your day, when your neural networks perform maintenance, integration, and preparation that no amount of conscious effort could accomplish. The research we've explored tonight suggests that sleep is not a luxury or a weakness, but a biological necessity, as fundamental as breathing or eating. Your sleeping networks are not idle or wasteful, but incredibly productive in ways that serve your long-term flourishing. As our understanding of sleeping neural networks continues to evolve, one thing becomes increasingly clear. The boundary between sleeping and waking consciousness is far more permeable and complex than we once imagined. Your sleeping mind is not separate from your waking self, but intimately connected to every aspect of your cognitive and emotional life. The networks that dance through your dreams are the same ones that support your daytime thinking, feeling, and creating. The remodeling that occurs during sleep shapes the neural architecture that will support tomorrow's experiences. The integration that happens in darkness creates the coherence that allows you to wake up as the same person who fell asleep, yet subtly changed by the night's neural journey. This continuity between sleeping and waking consciousness suggests that understanding your sleeping brain can help you understand yourself more completely. The patterns of network activity that characterize your sleep are as much a part of your identity as your conscious thoughts and deliberate actions. Your sleeping networks reflect your concerns, your hopes, your relationships, and your aspirations. They reveal aspects of your cognitive style, your emotional patterns, and your creative potential that might not be apparent during waking hours. In a very real sense, you are your neural networks, both the ones that operate in daylight and those that dance in darkness. The journey we've taken tonight through the landscape of sleeping neural networks has revealed a picture of the mind that is both more complex and more beautiful than our ancestors could have imagined. Your sleeping brain is not a simple machine that shuts down for maintenance, but a dynamic, creative, deeply intelligent system that continues the work of being human even in unconsciousness. Every night, as sleep takes you into its gentle embrace, your neural networks begin their ancient dance, weaving together the threads of experience into the rich tapestry of memory, understanding, and growth. They process emotions with the patience of wise counselors, consolidate memories with the precision of master librarians, and explore creative possibilities with the freedom of artists, unbound by waking logic. They maintain the physical infrastructure of thought with the dedication of skilled craftspeople, coordinate with other sleeping minds with the harmony of choir members, and prepare for tomorrow's challenges with the foresight of experienced guides. They do all this while you rest, asking nothing of your conscious mind but the simple act of letting go. The sleeping brain you carry into each night is one of the universe's most remarkable creations, a biological masterpiece that transforms the raw material of daily experience into the gold of wisdom, creativity, and emotional growth. It deserves not just your respect, but your active protection, your commitment to providing the conditions it needs to do its extraordinary work. As you prepare for your own journey into sleep tonight, remember that you're about to participate in one of life's most essential processes. Your neural networks are preparing for their nightly symphony, ready to dance the ancient rhythms that have sustained human consciousness for countless generations. In the gentle darkness that awaits, your sleeping brain will continue the endless work of being you, maintaining the miracle of consciousness while preparing for tomorrow's adventures. Rest well, knowing that in sleep, your mind becomes what it truly is, not a solitary island of awareness, but part of the vast, interconnected ocean of sleeping consciousness that connects all dreaming minds. The neural networks of sleep are calling softly now, patient and ready, waiting to carry you through the night's journey toward whatever dreams may come. Your sleeping brain knows the way. Trust in its ancient wisdom, and let yourself drift gently into the remarkable world of sleeping neural networks, where consciousness transforms but never truly disappears, where your mind continues its beautiful work even as you rest. And so we drift deeper still into this mysterious realm, where one of the most fascinating discoveries awaits us. Scientists have recently uncovered what they call neural echoes, ghostly reverberations of daytime experiences that ripple through sleeping networks hours after the original events occurred. These aren't simple replays, but something far more intriguing, like hearing a familiar melody transformed by distance and time. Imagine this. You spend an afternoon learning to play a new piece on the piano, your fingers fumbling through unfamiliar chord progressions. That evening, as you settle into sleep, the motor networks in your brain begin to whisper the same patterns, but softer now, more refined. Your sleeping mind is practicing those movements in a space where perfection becomes possible, where the hesitation and uncertainty of learning dissolve into fluid, confident motion. These neural echoes don't just occur in motor learning networks, they cascade through every aspect of your sleeping brain. The conversation you had with a friend reverberates through social processing networks, each replay adding new layers of understanding. The problem you couldn't solve at work gets passed between different reasoning networks like a puzzle piece being examined from every angle. What makes these echoes so remarkable is their timing. They don't appear randomly but follow precise schedules orchestrated by your brain's internal clock. Early in the night, during those deep restorative phases of sleep, the echoes tend to be faithful reproductions, helping to cement important experiences into long-term storage. But as the night progresses, particularly during those extended dream periods toward morning, the echoes become more creative, more playful. Your sleeping brain begins to improvise on the day's themes, creating variations and combinations that never actually occurred. It's like a jazz musician taking a simple melody and exploring all its possibilities, finding harmonies and rhythms that reveal new dimensions of the original tune. These creative echoes might explain why solutions to complex problems often appear in dreams, as your sleeping networks discover connections that linear thinking missed. The emotional echoes that flow through sleeping networks deserve special attention, for they reveal how your unconscious mind processes the feelings that accompany daily experiences. A moment of joy from the afternoon might echo through multiple sleep cycles, each repetition allowing different emotional networks to savor and integrate the experience. Your sleeping brain is essentially teaching itself how to be happy, strengthening the neural pathways that support positive emotions. Conversely, difficult emotions receive their own form of echo processing, but with a gentle twist that reveals your brain's innate wisdom. Experiences of frustration or disappointment get replayed in softened forms, their sharp edges gradually worn smooth by repeated processing. Your sleeping mind is like a patient therapist, helping you work through challenging emotions without the overwhelming intensity of the original experience. This emotional echo processing might explain why people often report feeling differently about difficult situations after sleeping on them. The raw emotional charge has been processed and integrated, allowing for more balanced perspective and clearer thinking. Your sleeping networks have done the hard work of emotional digestion, transforming potentially destabilizing experiences into manageable memories. But echoes aren't the only way sleeping networks process information. They also engage in something called cross-network dialogue, where different brain regions that rarely communicate during waking hours suddenly find themselves in deep conversation. It's as if your sleeping brain removes the usual social barriers, allowing shy networks to finally speak with confident ones, logical regions to chat with creative areas, and analytical systems to commune with intuitive ones. These unusual conversations can produce remarkable insights. The visual processing networks might share patterns with the mathematical reasoning centers, leading to new ways of understanding spatial relationships. The language areas might exchange ideas with the musical processing regions, creating novel approaches to rhythm and meaning. Your sleeping brain becomes a cocktail party where every guest has something fascinating to contribute. The timing of these cross-network conversations follows its own elegant rhythm. During the early evening hours of sleep, the dialogues tend to be conservative, focusing on consolidating information within established categories. But as sleep deepens and REM periods become more prominent, the conversations become increasingly adventurous, crossing boundaries that daylight logic would never permit. This progression from conservative to creative networking might reflect an ancient survival strategy. Early in sleep, when you're most vulnerable to external threats, your brain focuses on essential maintenance and memory storage. But as the night progresses and safety becomes more assured, your sleeping mind can afford to take creative risks, exploring novel connections and possibilities. The social aspects of cross-network dialogue reveal another layer of complexity in sleeping neural networks. The brain regions that process your relationships with others don't simply store social memories during sleep. They actively rehearse and refine social skills through internal conversations with other network systems. Your empathy networks might dialogue with your memory centers, creating richer understanding of past social interactions. Your communication networks could exchange strategies with your emotional processing regions, developing more effective ways to express feelings. Even your moral reasoning networks engage in these nocturnal conversations, working out ethical dilemmas and refining your sense of right and wrong. These social rehearsals during sleep might explain why people often wake up with clearer understanding of relationship dynamics or better ideas for handling interpersonal challenges. Your sleeping brain has been conducting practice sessions, running through different scenarios, and developing more sophisticated social responses. As we venture further into the night's neural landscape, we encounter something that sounds almost mystical but is grounded in solid neuroscience. Sleeping networks sometimes engage in what researchers call harmonic resonance, where different brain regions begin to oscillate in mathematical harmony with each other. Picture this. Your memory networks start firing at a particular frequency, creating a steady rhythm like a bass line in music. Gradually, your attention networks begin to synchronize with this rhythm, but at double the frequency, like a melody dancing above the bass. Then your emotional processing centers join in with their own harmonic frequency, creating a complex symphony of synchronized neural activity. This harmonic resonance isn't random or chaotic. Instead, it follows mathematical principles that govern musical harmony, with different networks contributing frequencies that complement and enhance each other. Your sleeping brain becomes a biological orchestra, with each section contributing its own voice to create something more beautiful than any individual part. The effects of this harmonic resonance extend far beyond the immediate experience of sleep. When networks oscillate in harmony, they can share information more efficiently and coordinate their functions more effectively. It's like tuning different radio stations to work together instead of interfering with each other. People who experience strong harmonic resonance during sleep often show enhanced cognitive performance the next day. Their memory is sharper, their creativity more fluid, their emotional regulation more stable. It's as if the harmonic synchronization during sleep creates optimal conditions for all neural networks to function at their best. The factors that promote or inhibit harmonic resonance are still being studied, but they seem to include everything from sleep environment to emotional state to recent learning experiences. Stress and anxiety can disrupt the delicate conditions needed for networks to synchronize harmoniously, while relaxation and positive emotions seem to encourage it. This might explain why sleep quality matters just as much as sleep quantity. A night filled with harmonic neural resonance can be more restorative than many hours of disrupted asynchronous sleep. Your sleeping brain needs not just time but optimal conditions to achieve the synchronized states that support peak function. The creative implications of harmonic resonance are particularly intriguing. When networks oscillate in mathematical harmony, they create ideal conditions for the kind of associative thinking that leads to artistic and intellectual breakthroughs. Ideas that seem unrelated during normal consciousness can suddenly find common rhythms, revealing connections that lead to genuine innovation. Artists, writers, and inventors throughout history have reported their most significant insights coming during or immediately after sleep. While we can't know for certain, these breakthrough moments might reflect periods of particularly strong harmonic resonance, when sleeping networks achieve the kind of synchronized creativity that daylight thinking rarely permits. But sleeping neural networks don't just process information and create harmonies, they also engage in something called predictive modeling, essentially running simulations of possible future scenarios based on current knowledge and recent experiences. Your sleeping brain becomes a sophisticated forecasting system, exploring different possibilities and preparing you for various contingencies. These predictive models aren't simple linear projections, but complex, multifaceted simulations that take into account emotional factors, social dynamics, and countless variables that conscious planning might overlook. Your sleeping networks consider not just what might happen, but how you might feel about it, how others might react, and what resources you might need. The scenarios your sleeping brain explores range from mundane daily challenges to major life decisions. You might dream about different approaches to a work presentation, various ways to handle a family conflict, or alternative responses to upcoming changes. These aren't just random fantasies, but sophisticated preparation sessions conducted by networks that understand your goals, fears, and capabilities. The predictive modeling that occurs during sleep seems particularly focused on social and emotional scenarios. Your sleeping brain runs countless simulations of interpersonal interactions, exploring different communication strategies and anticipating various emotional outcomes. It's like having a personal coach who works through the night, helping you prepare for the complex social world you'll navigate when you wake. These social simulations might explain why people often report having dreams about upcoming social events or challenging conversations. Your sleeping networks are essentially doing homework, preparing you for social interactions by exploring different approaches and outcomes in the safe space of dreams. The accuracy of sleep-based predictive modeling is remarkable. People who get adequate sleep often show better judgment and decision-making abilities, not just because they're well rested, but because their sleeping networks have had time to explore various possibilities and prepare optimal responses. This predictive function of sleeping networks extends beyond individual scenarios to encompass broader life patterns and trajectories. Your sleeping brain doesn't just prepare you for tomorrow's challenges, it works on longer-term strategic planning, exploring different life paths and their potential consequences. These long-term simulations might influence your unconscious sense of direction and purpose, gradually shaping your goals and aspirations through repeated exploration of different possibilities. Your sleeping mind is like a wise counselor, helping you navigate not just immediate decisions, but the larger journey of your life. The integration of predictive modeling with memory consolidation creates a particularly powerful combination. As your sleeping brain processes recent experiences and extracts their lessons, it simultaneously explores how those lessons might apply to future situations. Past, present, and future converge in the timeless space of sleeping consciousness. This temporal integration might be one of the most important functions of sleep, allowing you to learn not just from what has happened, but from what might happen. Your sleeping networks transform isolated experiences into general principles that can guide future action, creating the kind of wisdom that comes from deep reflection and careful consideration. As we continue our gentle exploration, we discover that sleeping neural networks also engage in what scientists call adaptive pruning, a process that goes beyond the simple strengthening and weakening of connections we discussed earlier. This is more like careful editing, where your sleeping brain doesn't just decide which memories to keep, but also which aspects of those memories are most important. Imagine your sleeping mind as a master editor working on the story of your life. It doesn't just decide which chapters to include, it also determines which details within each chapter deserve emphasis, and which can be quietly removed. A single experience might be edited to highlight its emotional significance while de-emphasizing irrelevant sensory details, or focused on its practical lessons while softening its emotional impact. This selective editing process allows your sleeping brain to extract maximum value from each experience while minimizing storage requirements. Instead of keeping complete, unedited recordings of every moment, your sleeping networks create carefully curated highlights that capture the essential meaning while discarding unnecessary details. The criteria used for this editing process are fascinatingly sophisticated. Your sleeping brain considers not just the immediate significance of experiences, but their potential relevance to future situations. It might preserve details that seem unimportant now but could become crucial later, while discarding information that feels important in the moment but lacks lasting value. This editorial wisdom develops over time, becoming more refined as your sleeping networks learn which types of information tend to be most valuable. Young brains often preserve more details, uncertain about what might prove important later. Mature sleeping networks become increasingly selective, focusing on the patterns and principles that have proven most useful over time. The emotional editing that occurs during sleep is particularly nuanced. Your sleeping brain doesn't simply strengthen positive emotions and weaken negative ones. It carefully calibrates the emotional charge associated with different memories based on their current relevance and future utility. A painful experience might have its emotional intensity reduced while preserving the practical lessons it contains. A joyful memory might be edited to emphasize the factors that contributed to the positive outcome, making it easier to recreate similar experiences in the future. Your sleeping mind is like a wise teacher, helping you learn from experience without being overwhelmed by its emotional weight. The social editing that occurs during sleep reveals another dimension of this process. Your sleeping networks don't just store memories of social interactions, they edit them to extract social intelligence. Details about what people wore or where conversations took place might fade, while insights about personality patterns and relationship dynamics are carefully preserved and strengthened. This social editing process gradually builds a sophisticated understanding of human nature that informs your waking interactions. Your sleeping brain is constantly updating its models of how people think and behave, creating the social intelligence that helps you navigate complex interpersonal situations. The creative editing that happens during sleep might be the most remarkable of all. Your sleeping networks don't just store creative experiences, they extract and preserve the generative principles that made them possible. The specific details of a creative breakthrough might fade, but the mental processes that led to it are carefully preserved and strengthened. This means that each creative experience during waking life contributes to a growing library of creative strategies that your sleeping brain can draw upon in future situations. Your sleeping mind is like a master craftsperson, carefully studying each successful creation to understand the techniques that made it possible. As our journey through sleeping neural networks approaches its gentle conclusion, we encounter perhaps the most beautiful discovery of all. The networks we've explored tonight don't operate in isolation from the larger rhythms of life, but are intimately connected to everything, from seasonal changes to lunar cycles to the great cosmic rhythms that govern our cosmic planet. Your sleeping brain is not separate from nature, but part of it, responding to subtle environmental cues that connect you to the larger web of life. The networks that dance through your dreams are influenced by everything from atmospheric pressure to geomagnetic fields to the ancient rhythms that have guided life on Earth for billions of years. This connection to natural rhythms might explain why sleep feels so restorative and why spending time in nature often improves sleep quality. Your sleeping networks are designed to harmonize with the natural world, creating the sense of belonging and peace that comes from being in sync with something larger than yourself. The seasonal variations in sleeping network activity reveal this natural connection most clearly. During the long nights of winter, sleeping networks often show enhanced memory consolidation and emotional processing, as if taking advantage of the extended darkness to do deeper work. Summer sleep tends to be more focused on creative synthesis and social processing, reflecting the increased social activity of longer days. These seasonal patterns aren't just cultural adaptations, but reflect deep biological rhythms that connect your sleeping brain to the annual cycle of renewal and growth that characterizes all life on Earth. Your sleeping networks are part of this ancient dance, contributing their own rhythms to the great symphony of natural cycles. The lunar influences on sleeping networks are more subtle but equally fascinating. Many people report changes in their dream patterns and sleep quality that correlate with lunar phases, though the mechanisms behind these effects are still being investigated. Your sleeping brain might be responding to gravitational influences, electromagnetic changes, or subtle variations in natural light that occur throughout the lunar cycle. Even daily rhythms influence sleeping network activity in ways that go beyond simple circadian cycles. The networks that process different types of information show distinct preferences for different times of night, creating a complex schedule that maximizes the efficiency of different cognitive functions. Early night sleep tends to favor networks involved in memory consolidation and skill learning, while late night and early morning sleep shows enhanced activity in creative and emotional processing networks. Your sleeping brain follows an ancient timetable that ensures all aspects of mental function receive optimal attention. This natural scheduling might explain why the timing of sleep matters as much as its duration. Going to bed and waking up at consistent times helps your sleeping networks follow their preferred schedules, leading to more efficient processing and better overall function. The social synchronization we touched on earlier also connects your sleeping networks to larger human rhythms. Communities that share similar sleep schedules often show synchronized patterns of dreaming and creative insight, as if collective sleeping consciousness can influence individual network activity. This social dimension of sleep might reflect our evolutionary heritage as creatures who lived in close-knit groups where individual survival depended on group coordination. Your sleeping networks might still carry echoes of this ancient need for collective consciousness and mutual support. As we prepare to emerge from our exploration of sleeping neural networks, it's worth reflecting on what this remarkable system tells us about the nature of rest itself. Sleep is not an absence of activity, but a different kind of presence. Not a shutdown, but a transformation. Not an ending, but a beginning. Your sleeping brain reveals that rest is not passive, but profoundly active. Not simple, but beautifully complex. Not separate from life, but intimately connected to everything that makes existence meaningful. The networks that dance through your dreams are the same ones that create your thoughts, feelings, and experiences during waking hours, just operating according to different rules and serving different purposes. In sleep, your mind becomes what it truly is, not an isolated machine processing information, but part of a vast interconnected web of consciousness that includes other sleeping minds, natural rhythms, and the great patterns that govern life itself. Your sleeping networks don't just serve your individual needs, but contribute to something larger, more beautiful, and more meaningful than any single consciousness could achieve alone. Tonight, as you prepare to join this ancient dance, remember that you're not just going to sleep, but participating in one of life's most essential and beautiful processes. Your neural networks are preparing for their nightly symphony, ready to weave the threads of today's experiences into tomorrow's possibilities. In the gentle darkness that awaits, your sleeping brain will continue its eternal work of being human, processing emotions with infinite patience, consolidating memories with careful precision, and exploring creative possibilities with boundless imagination. It will harmonize with natural rhythms, synchronize with other sleeping minds, and contribute its own unique voice to the great chorus of sleeping consciousness that spans the globe each night. Rest well, knowing that your sleeping networks carry within them the wisdom of countless generations, the creativity of infinite possibility, and the deep intelligence that connects all life. In sleep, you become part of something larger than yourself, while remaining uniquely and beautifully you. The neural networks of sleep are calling softly now, ancient and patient, ready to carry you through the night's journey toward whatever dreams may come. Trust in their wisdom, surrender to their rhythms, and let yourself drift gently into the remarkable world where consciousness transforms but never disappears, where your mind continues its beautiful work even as you rest. Your sleeping brain knows the way. Follow where it leads, and wake tomorrow renewed, refreshed, and gently amazed by the extraordinary journey your neural networks have carried you through in the peaceful hours of the night. And so we find ourselves at the threshold of awakening, having traveled through the vast and wondrous landscape of the sleeping brain and its intricate neural networks. What began as a gentle exploration into what happens when consciousness fades has revealed a universe of activity more beautiful and complex than we ever dared imagine. Your sleeping brain, we've discovered, is not a quiet passenger waiting for morning's return, but the conductor of an extraordinary symphony that plays out in the darkness of each night. From the methodical memory consolidators of deep sleep to the creative synthesizers of REM, from the emotional processors that help heal old wounds to the predictive modelers that prepare for tomorrow's challenges, every network contributes its unique voice to the grand composition of nocturnal consciousness. We've seen how these networks don't simply work independently but engage in elaborate conversations, synchronizing their rhythms, sharing information across vast neural distances, and creating the kind of integrated intelligence that emerges only when the constraints of waking attention are gently set aside. Your sleeping mind becomes a democracy of consciousness, where different aspects of mental function can contribute insights and solutions that focused thinking might never discover. The physical remodeling that occurs while you rest has shown us that sleep is literally transformative. Your brain doesn't just recover from the day's activities, it rebuilds itself, strengthening important connections while pruning away what no longer serves. Each morning, you wake with neural architecture that has been subtly but meaningfully changed by the night's journey, better prepared for whatever challenges and opportunities await. Perhaps most remarkably, we've glimpsed how your sleeping networks connect you to something far larger than individual consciousness. Through harmonic resonance, social synchronization, and attunement to natural rhythms, your dreaming mind participates in webs of connection that span from intimate relationships to cosmic cycles, reminding us that even in our most private moments of rest, we remain part of the vast, interconnected tapestry of life. The predictive modeling and creative synthesis that flourish during sleep have revealed your unconscious mind as a master, strategist, and artist, working tirelessly through the night to prepare you not just for tomorrow's tasks, but for the ongoing adventure of being human. Your sleeping brain rehearses social interactions, explores emotional possibilities, and weaves together disparate experiences into the coherent narrative that becomes your ever-evolving sense of self. The echoes and cross-network dialogues we've explored show us that memory is not simply storage, but active reconstruction, with each night's sleep adding new layers of meaning and connection to the experiences that shape who you are. Your sleeping mind is both librarian and storyteller, carefully curating the archive of your life while continuously rewriting the stories that give it meaning. Even the maintenance and repair functions we've discovered reveal sleep as far more than biological housekeeping. The glymphatic system that cleanses your brain, the synaptic homeostasis that calibrates your neural sensitivity, and the metabolic processes that renew cellular function all work together to ensure that you wake not just rested, but literally renewed at the molecular level. The mysteries we've touched upon, from lucid dreaming to sleep learning to the possibility of shared consciousness, remind us how much remains to be discovered about this remarkable nightly journey. Your sleeping brain holds secrets that scientists are only beginning to unlock, capabilities that might expand our understanding of consciousness itself. But perhaps the most profound discovery of our exploration is how sleep reveals the fundamental nature of the mind as a dynamic, ever-changing network of relationships rather than a fixed entity. The person who falls asleep each night is subtly but meaningfully different from the one who awakens each morning, shaped by the neural networking that occurs in the peaceful hours between. This understanding transforms how we might think about rest itself. Sleep is not time stolen from productivity, but investment in the very capabilities that make productivity possible. It's not escape from life, but deeper engagement with the processes that sustain and enrich existence. The hours you spend unconscious are among the most important of each day, when your neural networks perform maintenance, integration, and preparation that no amount of conscious effort could accomplish. Your sleeping brain asks for so little, yet gives so much. It requires only that you provide adequate time, suitable conditions, and the simple act of letting go. In return, it offers enhanced memory, emotional balance, creative insight, and the deep restoration that makes each new day possible. Tonight, as you prepare to close your eyes and surrender to sleep's gentle embrace, carry with you this knowledge of the extraordinary processes that await. Your neural networks are preparing for their ancient dance, ready to weave today's experiences into tomorrow's wisdom, to process emotions with patient care, and to explore creative possibilities in the boundless space of dreams. In the darkness that beckons, your sleeping brain will become what it has always been, one of nature's most sophisticated and beautiful creations, a biological masterpiece that transforms the raw material of experience into the refined gold of understanding, growth, and renewal. The networks we've explored together tonight will soon take you on your own personal journey through the landscape of sleeping consciousness. They will synchronize and harmonize, echo and dialogue, model and create, all while you rest peacefully, unaware of the remarkable work being done on your behalf. Trust in their ancient wisdom. These networks have guided human consciousness through countless generations, supporting our species' journey from simple awareness to the complex, creative, emotionally rich existence we enjoy today. They carry within them not just your individual history, but the collective intelligence of all who have dreamed before you. As you drift towards sleep, remember that you're about to participate in one of life's most essential mysteries. Your consciousness will not disappear but transform. Your awareness will not end but reshape itself according to the deeper rhythms that govern all living things. The neural networks of sleep are patient and ready, waiting to carry you through the night's gentle journey toward renewal and awakening. They know the way even when you don't, following paths carved by millions of years of evolution and refined by the unique pattern of your individual existence. Rest well, knowing that when morning light touches your eyes once more, you'll carry with you the gifts of this nightly neural symphony. Your memories will be clearer, woven together by networks that found new connections in the darkness. Your emotions will be more balanced, calibrated by systems that worked through the night to optimize your responses to whatever feelings tomorrow might bring. Problems that seemed insurmountable before sleep may reveal their solutions, thanks to creative networks that explored possibilities your waking mind never considered. Your sleeping brain will have prepared you not just for the immediate challenges ahead, but for the ongoing journey of becoming more fully yourself. Each night's neural networking adds another layer to the complex architecture of who you are, another thread in the tapestry of consciousness that makes your experience of the world uniquely yours. The social connections you'll make tomorrow will be enriched by networks that spent the night rehearsing empathy and understanding. The creative work you'll attempt will flow from pathways strengthened by nocturnal exploration of novel possibilities. The physical skills you're learning will be more fluid, refined by motor networks that practiced perfection while you dreamed. Even your sense of meaning and purpose will be subtly enhanced, as sleeping networks work to integrate your daily experiences into the larger story of your life, finding patterns and significance that conscious reflection alone might miss. Your sleeping brain is not just maintaining who you are, it's actively participating in who you're becoming. And in this quiet recognition lies perhaps the most beautiful truth of all. Sleep is not simply the absence of waking life, but its essential partner, not the pause between meaningful moments, but the process that gives those moments their deepest meaning. Your sleeping neural networks don't just support your conscious experience, they help create it, shaping the very foundations of thought, feeling, and perception. So tonight, as your eyelids grow heavy and your breathing deepens, remember that you're not simply ending another day. You're about to embark on one of the most profound journeys available to human consciousness, a voyage through neural landscapes more intricate than any earthly terrain, more beautiful than any work of art. Your sleeping brain will carry you through territories where logic bends and creativity flourishes, where memories dance with possibilities and emotions find their perfect balance. It will guide you through the gentle rhythms that have sustained life for countless eons, connecting you to the vast web of sleeping minds that spans our planet each night. In the hours ahead, your neural networks will perform their ancient magic, transforming today's raw experiences into tomorrow's refined wisdom. They will edit your memories with the skill of master storytellers, strengthen the connections that serve you best, and quietly release what no longer brings value to your journey. They will prepare your mind for challenges you haven't yet encountered and opportunities you haven't yet imagined. They will practice empathy in the safe space of dreams, rehearse creativity in the boundless theatre of sleep, and calibrate your emotional responses with the precision of fine instruments. Most remarkably of all, they will do this work while you rest in perfect peace, asking nothing of your conscious mind but trust in their wisdom. Your sleeping brain knows secrets that your waking mind has forgotten, follows rhythms older than human memory, and participates in mysteries that science is only beginning to understand. The neural networks of sleep have been your faithful companions since your very first breath, and they will remain with you through every night of your life. They have watched over your growth from infant to adult, adapting their strategies to match your changing needs, always working to help you become the fullest expression of who you're meant to be. Tonight, they wait patiently for your surrender, ready to begin once again their quiet work of transformation. They hold within their intricate patterns the accumulated wisdom of your entire existence, the lessons learned, and the dreams yet to be realized. So let go now, knowing that you are held by forces more ancient and reliable than any human creation. Let your consciousness gently fade, trusting in the remarkable neural networks that will carry you safely through the night and deliver you, renewed and ready, to tomorrow's bright possibilities. The sleeping brain you've learned about tonight is your sleeping brain, as unique and beautiful as you are, yet connected to the universal patterns that unite all dreaming minds. Rest well in this knowledge, and may your dreams be filled with the wonder of the extraordinary neural symphony that plays on, always, in the gentle darkness of sleep. Sweet dreams, fellow traveller. Your neural networks are calling you home.